founder of HelloMD, and today I'm joined by Ezra and Mischa of Atlas Edibles, one of my favorite California cannabis brands. And today's show is called Take a Hike with Cannabis, because I'm about to embark on a journey of a lifetime, hiking the John Muir Trail, a 211-mile, 21-day journey that goes from Yosemite Valley all the way to the base of Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the continental U.S. And if all goes according to plan,
we're praying for you.
Yeah, I know, they're praying for me. I'm going to summit that too. Plans can be broken. Anyway, Atlas Edibles is joining me today because cannabis is going to help support my health and wellness during this epic adventure from point A to point Z. And in today's show, we're going to make some easy drink recipes, which I'm going to bring on the trail with me. And they're also easy enough for you to make at home. We're also going to look at my enormous backpack. It's way too big. We're going to take some of the supplies out of that and discuss, like, why am I taking this equipment with me? And we're also going to learn all about Atlas Edibles. So welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having us, Pamela. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, and so Ezra, as the founder of Atlas Edibles, can you tell us a little bit about your history with cannabis, how you founded Atlas Edibles, and what the company is about?
Definitely. Well, we started Atlas about 2.5 years ago, and really the journey started much earlier. I was in love with food from a very young age, and believe me, the photos of my younger self definitely prove that to be true. I'm sure Mischa can vouch for that. But no comment, right, and over here. But you know, really the beauty was when I started interning at Chez Panisse. I learned about ingredients and integrity, and then I got a degree in culinary nutrition. And at the time of trying to figure out where I wanted to go, my friend's dad was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer and was eating a gummy infused with cannabis. And that's when I really realized that health and wellness was missing from the edibles category.
And when you were talking about a gummy, when you say infused with cannabis, it's also infused with a lot of processed
sugar and artificial flavors. So really what I wanted to do, and what I spent a lot of time doing in the kitchen, was tinkering with more food-driven, ingredient-driven products. And sure enough, we came up with our first product, which was an infused granola cluster, which is just so delicious and really sets the basis for incorporating high-quality cannabis.
It's so delicious that when I've eaten it, I can't stop eating it. That's the problem. I mean,
well, we're working on low-dose products for you, Pamela.
Granola is not the right word for it. It's just incredibly delicious. But I remember the first time that I met you, Ezra, that you emphasized the fact that Atlas was a food company first and a cannabis company second.
Definitely, and we really pride ourselves on really focusing on sourcing exceptional ingredients and making a product that's just delicious. And then incorporating that cannabis is our way of just ensuring the quality and consistency that we would want to consume our own products.
Well, you did a great job, and I can't believe that it's been 2.5 years. And I was just saying,
feels like a lifetime.
When I first met you, I think it was 2.5 years ago, and I thought you guys had been in business for like 6 or 7 years.
Well, you know, we're doing our best. Yeah.
So, Mischa, tell us a little bit about your history with cannabis and how you ended up getting incorporated or working with Atlas.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also have a long history with food. My father was a chef growing up, so I've been in the back of the kitchen tinkering with recipes and ingredients from a young age. I fell in love with the outdoors and backpacking at a sleepaway camp in Yosemite when I was about 11, and actually ended up leading backpacking. I was the backpacking specialist and was taking 20 to 40 14-year-olds up into the Sierras for 3 or 4 days, which was its own adventure.
It's insane and much harder than the journey I'm about to go on.
Different
I'll go with Pamela.
Sure. But yeah, I joined Ezra about 2 years ago and really saw a product that was way ahead of its time in terms of the ingredients that were being used and focusing on cannabis as a ingredient and building recipes around it. You know, we saw a lot of edibles that were in a recipe that they then added cannabis or added distillate into, as opposed to building it around that product. So it was cool to see products that were taking that level of care and that were also there to help, you know, take people on these journeys out into nature. They're portable, easy to use, and really be part of that experience.
That's fantastic. And I love the fact that you're joining us to actually pick your brain about how to actually pack my backpack correctly, because you know all about that. We were talking yesterday about using electrolytes and how important that is to go out on the trail with that, whether it's a 17-mile hike, which you're about to do, or a 211-mile hike. And we are also, towards the end of this, we're going to have a chair off.
Yes.
A camping
I'm the
chair
judge.
off.
I'll be the judge.
Okay,
he's great at sitting,
Exactly. So I want to remind everyone in the audience that if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask them in the live chat. That can be about the John Muir Trail, it can be about backpacking, it can be about cannabis and supporting an active lifestyle. And we're going to dig into this, and we're about to start making drinks. So if you have any questions, that would be great. I'm going to give another fact about the John Muir Trail, which is that when you hike it, you actually go through 11 mountain passes.
Wow.
And
Incredible.
you go through many, many different parks, including the Ansel Adams Wilderness, John Muir Wilderness, Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon National Park, and then finally Mount Whitney.
Right.
Wow.
All right, so
Saving that for the end.
Yeah, ambitious there.
yeah, so why do you think that cannabis is actually great for people that are on the go or for athletes? So I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts about that.
Definitely. We really believe that cannabis is such a superfood. It's a powerful plant. And so when incorporating these really incredible medicinal benefits of the plant itself with just nutritious ingredients, your body's just getting this exceptional bioavailability of just goodness, wellness. And we really think that people who are athletic and are just wellness minded can really utilize, whether it be microdosing or CBD or THC with different ratios, to just accommodate their needs, whether it's anxiety or, inflammation or other ailments that they're having when it's doing a 211-mile hike or something as simple
Anxiety.
as just hanging out at home. Yeah, exactly.
And I think something we talked about, Pamela, too, was, there's the physical aspect
Yeah.
of anti-inflammation, those kind of things. I know for me, getting out in nature is my way of unplugging and kind of resetting.
Yeah.
And I think cannabis can really help kind of leave the wandering thoughts of the next meeting and the email you forgot to send before you left at the door,
Yeah.
and help you really be in the present, which is really important for me when I'm out in nature.
Yeah, and I think touching on the idea of microdosing, there's microdosing where you're taking it, and we talked about this yesterday, about it being sub-perceptual, where you take THC on an ongoing basis and you don't even really notice that you've taken it, versus macrodosing, which is, some people prefer to do it that way. What are your thoughts on that?
Good
Yeah,
question.
I think that there's a time for everything. I have a food analogy for everything. So I think the sub perception, I think you said, is almost like that ingredient that's in the dish. You don't taste it, but it's there anyway, right? That a lot of recipes have a pinch of something. You might not notice it, but it really is rounding everything out. So I think there's the same kind of thing can be accomplished with these products,
Yeah.
where, like you said, it's not hitting you in the face, but it is there in the background, making you experience it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would
And-
agree.
Yeah, and in terms of using CBD, which I do every day, I do that to keep inflammation down. It actually has prevented my migraines over the last 6 years. I haven't had a migraine after having them for 25 years. So I'll be bringing CBD, ratio of 20-1 on the trail with me, but I'll also be microdosing your beverage product, just because I'll feel like, or I know that it will keep sort of pain at bay and allow me to
Absolutely.
keep going when I might otherwise just want to drop.
It's a good accompaniment.
So we actually have an audience question, and the question is this: does elevation affect your high, especially when smoking cannabis in the mountains?
I could imagine it.
Yeah, elevation. So elevation affects different people differently. Obviously, if you're more used to going up in the mountains, you're going to be more tolerant to that. 7,000 to 10,000 is where I think those effects start to happen.
Right.
I don't think they necessarily will affect how high you get, how intense that feeling is, but certain feelings that if people get affected by elevation can, cooperate with those things.
Absolutely.
They
It's
can
sort of
give
an
you
entourage
headaches.
effect.
Right.
Yeah, I always tell people that aren't used to it, you just have to go gradual. So if you're not used to elevation, make sure you go to that height a day early before you do anything really exerting yourself.
And in terms of the kinds of products Atlas actually offers, why don't we go through your product selection so that people in the audience actually know what you have to offer?
Great. Well, we started with our granola clusters, which are the bags in front of us. They're gluten-free, dairy-free, and really just focus on exceptional ingredients. And then, of course, this is going to be your true shining star on your trip. It's our high CBD, low THC, microdosable beverage mix. And the best part about that is it's just discreet, it's easy to use, also no artificial flavors, no artificial colors, and just offering more of that wellness in a microdose fashion, which will allow you to maybe not commit to smoking a joint, for instance, and getting a little sensation to gauge your sensation before you commit to maybe a little more of an effect that will give you a bad experience.
Yeah, so I'm planning on actually putting about a half pack
Nice.
of your drink beverage in my Camelback every morning and just sipping on that throughout the day. And I think
Absolutely.
that'll do me just fine.
Yeah.
And that's about 2.5 milligrams of THC, which truly is a microdose.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And the CBD, how will that support health and wellness on the trail?
Yeah, absolutely. So the CBD is more for the physical effects while you're walking, reducing inflammation. Obviously, when you're carrying a big pack, all of those effects that we're used to feeling on our knees and our joints are just multiplied because your body's not necessarily used to that much weight on its back. So for me, it's my knees. You know, it's somewhere different, I think, for everyone else. But it can really just help keep that inflammation down and keep you going.
Yeah, that's great. Well, why don't we dig right in and start making some
Yeah,
drinks?
absolutely.
Excellent.
So the first one we were going to make for you is kind of a take on our pomegranate green tea. We're going to add some electrolytes to it for you, but you know this thing is great by itself as well. One of the great things about having a powdered beverage is you can really do anything with it. You were talking about diluting it a little more in your Camelback, which is great if you're going to be sipping all day. You can make it a little more concentrated if you want, like a can of cocktail. So I'm going to open
Wait,
this
I'm going to
up.
stop you right there because
Yeah.
the first time I tried this, that was what really impressed me was the flavor, and that it actually was the first cannabis beverage that I ever tasted that actually tasted like a mocktail in just water. It was incredible, and it's a
awesome.
fantastic alcohol replacement. I'm not a fan of mixing alcohol and
Yeah,
cannabis
no
at
hangover.
Yeah. Or a hangover cure,
Yeah,
depending on what you're
exactly.
looking for.
Exactly.
It depends. So yeah, so for this one, we're going to add, we have our Nalgene here. I'm going to add our packet into this.
Nice and
We're going to add some coconut water because we have it. I don't think you'll be carrying this with you on the trail, but they actually do
I
make
wish.
powdered coconut water.
I didn't know
So you
that,
can
really?
add that as well.
Okay.
Oh, they'll powder anything these days.
Yeah.
So we're going to add some of that in as well. And then, you know, electrolytes, I think that word gets thrown around a lot, but it's mostly just salt. It's something your body needs to regulate. If you don't get enough electrolytes as you're exerting yourself and sweating a lot, you can get more muscle cramps and fatigue a lot faster. So
But I
it's
was
important.
actually hearing it's important to actually have the right mix of salts together. I was hearing about new salt, Epsom salts, and Himalayan pink salt as the magical electrolyte formulation.
So we have some Himalayan salt here. It has sodium and chloride like usual, but it also has more magnesium and calcium. So I'm just going to put like a teaspoon in there. That's about it, and that's it. Shake that up.
Isn't
Nice
that
and tight.
a lot of salt for that amount of liquid, or is that
It's
just
not
about right?
that much. You can put, it's to taste. You can put anywhere from a pinch to a tablespoon, but about a teaspoon for an amount like this would
And
do it.
what will the electrolytes be doing on the trail? Is that just to replace what's being sweat out?
Exactly. It's really just about balance. You don't ever want to have too much or too little. So things like coffee, diuretics that flush your system out will lower that balance. Salts, and whether you eat them or
Coffee
drink them
is
will help it.
coming with me.
Yeah,
Yes.
it better.
But that's why you need a little extra on the trail. So that's this first drink. So super simple. Again, I think we just put powder, coconut water, and a little bit of salt. And this can keep you going on the trail while you're hiking.
Cool. Are we going to try it?
I think
we
we should. And then while I'm pouring that, I can start getting the next one ready.
So, you know, in terms of the different flavors you have going on here, how did you decide what flavors to create? Because they're pretty
that's
diverse.
A very good, you know, I think the best part about these products is similar to what Mischa was saying, we really focus on incorporating the cannabis as a flavor. And all of our products are actually infused with full spectrum rosin. So we're using just the natural extract of the plant itself.
Right.
And I think the beauty is we've actually been able to encapsulate a lot of the terpenes, so the aromatherapies of the plant, in the sugar itself. So we want to riff on the flavor of the cannabis with the other flavors we thought we wanted our customers and patients essentially to have access to. So flavor is really important to me, of course, because if it isn't delicious, what's the point in taking it? But I think the fun part is that the cannabis really lends itself to the playfulness of all the other flavors.
And in terms of terpenes, maybe you can tell our audience about the importance of terpenes and how you went about selecting them.
Definitely, and I think for us, we even take it a step further. I mean, food terpenes are really the vehicle in which we use with our infused products. And terpene profiles, as we understand them, are just the nuances in smell and sensation that you get from the plant itself. And by incorporating some of these other flavor profiles from the food, we can support maybe the effects that we're really trying to get from the plant itself.
Right, so like lemon, the lemon has
exactly.
limonene as a terpene.
Exactly.
And that's also in the cannabis plant. And limonene happens to be uplifting, right?
Exactly, and that's very true to, let's say, our lemon with blueberry, poppy seed, and ginger cluster versus the Mexican chocolate that is more of the indica-leaning product with a Mexican spice blend that we actually made proprietarily with Oaktown Spice Company. It's a local spice shop in Oakland. So really creating this fun and experience around food and flavor with some of our local makers has been really, I think, one of the best parts about having Atlas around.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to try your drink because, well, I've tried it many
Shall we?
times.
Well, yeah.
But I have never tried it with the pink
To your trail.
Cheers.
Salute. Yeah. I'm interested to taste the salt.
salty, but you know what? That amount of salt for 211-mile hike, I think, is going to serve you very well. Making sure that electrolyte replenishment is really there to help you with your trek.
I was actually hearing about a colleague in our office who was in the Army, and he said that all of the lieutenants used to put just plain salt into their backpack.
Wow.
So I was reading about, not in the backpack, in their camelbacks, but I was reading about it last night, and it's important that you get the right kind of salt because you can actually get water retention, right? So I've been looking into it, and I looked into this thing last night called snake juice. You'll have to look it up.
Okay. That's new to me.
Serious.
That's a new one for me.
A new product coming soon.
Right,
Atlas
right,
Snake
snake
Juice.
juice. All right, so
We'll work on that
audience
one.
question. If I don't like coconut water, are there any other substitutes for good electrolytes? Well, I think the salt.
Yeah,
right?
there's
Definitely.
salt. There's some supplement powders that are specifically just electrolyte blends. We're actually working on some products that are specifically for this.
Definitely.
So hopefully eventually it'll be an Atlas electrolyte mix. But there's lots of stuff out there. Salt, most electrolyte blends are mostly salt. That's the main one our body uses. And some of those blends just incorporate those other minerals we were talking about, calcium, magnesium, et cetera.
Right, and just to, we had talked about Atlas being an actual food company first, but when you set out to create this company, were you thinking about it as being more outdoorsy and activity lifestyle oriented?
I think a lot of it came from the things that we like to do as a company. I think we like products that we can put in our bag and not have to worry about it melting or crumbling.
Right.
So I think the accessibility of being able to kind of go out in the world and explore without having to think twice about what the experience will be like once I get to my destination. So, with the granola cluster, it has a year shelf life. It's really durable to allow you to kind of take it on the go. And with the beverage mix, I think the best part is exactly what we're talking about with your journey. It would be harder to take that beverage as a ready-to-make or ready-to-drink beverage than it is on a nice, discreet, and portable pack like that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I love about your drink beverages or your beverage drink powder, because I don't see anything else out on the market that is that portable and easy to use.
And it's going to be
And
served
that's
for
delicious.
3 ounces, right? So
Yeah.
weight's important when you're on a trail. So having something lightweight is definitely help.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to remind the audience, if you have any questions about cannabis and active lifestyle or cannabis and hiking or the John Muir Trail, please use the live chat, ask your questions. We will do our best to answer. We don't know everything, but we pretend to. And I'm going to just throw out some fun facts about John Muir. He was actually the founding member of the Sierra Club in 1892, and he helped to establish 5 national parks. And I wish there were more people out in the world today that were able to affect the change that he actually affected during the time of President Roosevelt, a time when our national leaders actually cared about the outdoors and put land aside. So, many blessings to John Muir. Okay, so another audience question, which is, are the beverage packets good in the heat or the extreme cold? That's a great question.
That is, and I think the beauty of this product is it's fully water soluble, meaning that you can pretty much add it to any liquid you'd like. So hot or cold, the shelf stability doesn't really get affected too much, but I think if you're really in a cold place, make it into a hot tea, and if you're in a really hot place, you can make it in a cold beverage and enjoy it either way you like.
Yeah, and I've done both, and I really enjoy it as a tea as well at night.
Awesome.
All right, so what other drinks are we thinking about making?
So we were also going to make for you kind of your perfect timing, nighttime beverage.
Right.
For this one, we're going to use our lemongrass ginger. It's my personal favorite. It has real ginger from Oaktown Spice Shop, which he mentioned. Again, you can do this just the packet and water, and it's delicious. We're going to add a couple things because you're on the trail.
Right.
When I'm hiking, I love to bring a little knob of ginger with me. It doesn't go bad in your backpack, and you just put a slice or two in your pot of tea at night. It adds a lot of flavor. Turmeric is also really great, another root that travels well and has good anti-inflammatory properties as well.
How
so
much
just kinda
turmeric
adds
do you
to that
actually
punch.
need to eat of the actual root itself to have anti-inflammatory properties? Because I know that there's a lot of discussion about, you have to eat so much turmeric.
Yeah, so turmeric, we're kind of viewing it as a way to kind of add to the CBD.
Right.
If it was by itself, you'd probably need a lot more.
Yeah.
But, like he said, same thing with the flavors and the terpenes. When we can take food and the cannabis and use them to kind of have these synergistic effects, they work
Right.
together in that way. I'm going to add some mint in here as well.
My favorite.
Now, when you're on the trail, coyote mint is one of my favorite things to pick and add to my pot of tea. It has little purple round flowers, but we're going to substitute it with some garden mint because we didn't have time to go up to the Sierras before this.
So I loved that advice that you gave of bringing ginger and turmeric yesterday, because coyote mint is so available on the trail. Because
everywhere.
I am a big fan of having tea at night.
Yes. Yeah, so I do a little knob of ginger and the coyote mint and water, and
Nice.
we're good to go.
And are you good? You have your kettle?
We do.
Okay.
And
Nice and hot.
nice and hot, and this will dissolve pretty instantly. So as soon as I'm done pouring, if you're steeping things like the ginger, you can usually let it sit for a few minutes, but that's about it. And again, you know, you can dilute it as much as you want, make it as sweet or not sweet as you want, depending
It's
on
so
your
nice.
Smells delicious.
It's funny, we've been
you
growing
smell it through the camera?
Yeah. Smell. We've been growing fresh mint at home, and I've been making mint tea from freshly picked mint versus from the store. Wow, what
Such
a
a difference.
world is different.
like
Absolutely.
you just put it straight in your mug, and it tastes like a really strong cup of mint tea.
Absolutely.
Versus when you buy it at the store, you have to steep it for an hour.
Definitely. No,
So-
the freshness definitely helps.
So how long do you have to wait for this to
So
steep?
if it was just the powder, as soon as I'm done pouring the water, it's ready.
Right. But with this?
with these ingredients, you usually let it sit a few minutes. But for
Well, actually,
live will it sit?
I want like
She
the
wants the full
optimal. I want the
experience. There we go.
optimal experience.
I appreciate that.
I like your style.
Stop.
High standards here. Let's do it right.
So while that's steeping, why don't you tell us a little bit about the products that you may be developing or that are in the pipeline?
Well, I think it's a really exciting time for us. We really focus on innovations. Like you said, these beverage mixes are really the first to market. We have a sleep aid that we're bringing where we're actually isolating other cannabinoids like CBN to focus on really the effects-driven products that consumers are really asking for. And I'd actually say the audience should contribute some of their ideas about products that we as a food-driven company want to see in dispensaries, because I think for us, we really listen to our customers and just try to provide products that they really are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as we know from being in the industry and talking to so many people that are out there, the biggest thing that people seem to suffer from is lack of sleep, whether that's induced by just behavioral patterns or otherwise, and then anxiety and stress.
Definitely. Well,
So-
we're definitely trying to help just people in general find alternative means of just dealing with their ailments. And I think the reality is this plant is so powerful and there's so much more to learn. So we're excited to offer more low-dose products, more high CBD products, and really I think get excited about the future of what this plant will unlock as we kind of research it more and learn more.
That's great. And while you're pouring that,
Oh, yeah.
because I think we're ready for
tea
this,
time.
We're
it's
ready.
tea
Tea
time.
time.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about how the plant is adaptogenic and how it actually works within our body to help us sleep or to help us de-stress.
Well, the beauty of this plant is it really resonates with our endocannabinoid system. And I know that that word is being thrown around in a lot of different ways, but the beauty is we have receptors in our body that really latch on to some of these different cannabinoids that we were talking about. And I'm sure you can give a lot more depth into that, but ultimately our thought is focusing on isolating cannabinoids, learning more about what they do, and then finding some of those ancillary cannabinoids, what we like to call the entourage effect, to support that effect and not necessarily just focus on THC, but all the other spectrum of products the plant medicine that's out there.
That's great. And I can smell the lemongrass.
Oh, it's my
It's like-
favorite.
We'll try this one.
Another cheers.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers to
First-
211 mile.
Yeah.
I can sip on this all day.
Yeah, you get that real ginger punch.
Yeah, and that was after just a couple of minutes, like you said. I love that. All right, so that's definitely something I'm going to be making at home, and ideally on the trail as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, now we're going to be transitioning into what's actually in my backpack. It's one of the most common questions that I actually get is, what made you decide to do the John Muir Trail, and then what are you bringing with you? So, you know, it's a 21-day hike, and so it's a lot to carry with you. You actually don't carry all of your food. You have to actually send it ahead. But this past weekend, I spent a lot of time actually organizing my gear and did a little test hike with my crew. And so we're going to take a look at some footage that we took and show that hike.
Awesome.
I decided to go on the John Muir Trail about 1 year ago. I
had always thought that I wanted to do an extended backwoods hike, and I'd never really had the opportunity to do it. And when the opportunity presented itself, I thought, why wouldn't I do it? The John Muir Trail is actually one of the most famous hikes in the United States. It's also considered one of the most beautiful, and it's a 21-day, 211-mile trek. And I'm starting in Yosemite Valley and going all the way to Mount Whitney and adding on the summit to Mount Whitney at the end. The thing I'm most excited about in hiking the John Muir Trail is having that extended period of time to myself, being out in nature and getting away from the external noise of texts and emails and all the pressures that daily life puts on us. Knowing that the hike is going to require me to go 10 to 13 miles a day, I know that the cannabis products that I've chosen are just going to allow me to push myself to that limit. Not over my limit, but just keep inflammation and pain at bay. Tasty. Because of the length of the John Muir Trail, I'm limited to the amount of weight that I can carry, so I've been hiking in the hills behind my house, and I think that was important just to not only get in cardiovascular shape, but to test out my pack and just general weight on my shoulders and hips. I hope that my trip on the John Muir Trail will change my perception of the world around me. Maybe that's a little too transformative, but at least just give me a different perspective on how life can be lived. All right, so we are back, and I have taken a few things out of my backpack. I can't actually believe that I'm going to be even carrying this much, and this isn't even a quarter of it. So these are some of my favorite items that I'm going to be taking with me. And we're going to talk about your 17-mile hike and what you're going to take with you, and I want your opinion on all of this equipment. So let's go through it. So Mischa, let's talk about this incredibly large and heavy thing in front of me called the what?
The bear. Well, this one's the bear vault, but you're definitely going to have some critters following you around on the trail. So it's important to keep your food, and not their food.
Right. This thing is bear proof, and it is also
that.
What did we say? Pamela proof. I have a hard time getting into my food. I'm always like trying to get into it and snapping on my fingers, and I'm not a big fan of this, but it's an absolute necessity when you're going on a hike. Because you actually aren't allowed to go into these wilderness hikes and hang your food in a tree anymore. Yeah. So I think if you get caught without a bear canister, you actually get in trouble.
Wow.
No, it's important.
Yeah, and so we had talked yesterday about when you pack this bear canister, right now what you're seeing inside is actually a lot of the packages of food, the dehydrated food that I'll be bringing with me. But you actually what do you want to do with that?
You want to unpack everything. You know, every ounce counts on a trail, especially when you're going to be going for that many days. So always unpackaging, so you're bringing as few boxes and bags as possible. You said you're going to bring a lot of Ziplocs, which are great to bring because once you finish the food, they become your trash bag as well, and you can reuse them. But every ounce counts.
Absolutely. And Ezra, we were talking about your 17-mile hike and how you like to bring gourmet food.
Oh, yeah. I have a hard time just looking at this thing and imagining your experience. But I think, the beauty of, the dehydrated food products to market are getting better quality.
Yeah.
It looks like you have some in here that I've noticed, and I've tried myself, just prepping for my 17-mile hike.
Yeah. Well, nutrition was actually one of the biggest concerns for me actually going into this hike, because you actually can't bring all fresh ingredients, as you know, on a 21-mile or a 21-day hike. You're going to have to rely on dehydrated food, but there are certain things that we were able to plan for and put in our bear canister, like chia seed pudding, almond milk, freeze-dried fruit. For lunch, we're going to have tuna and chicken from the packet and corn tortillas. And corn tortillas is going to be like a big delight after the 15th day. And we'll have guacamole powder. And then for dinners, we're going to rely more on the sort of standard REI dinners that are dehydrated, like some of the ones that you talked about.
Pad thai, it's actually pretty amazing what they can make these days in a dehydrated bag. It's pretty impressive.
And I'm also thinking about the supplements that I'm going to bring, which is like we talked about the electrolytes and the CBD and the THC and some other just like omega-3s. So, but talking about food leads me to the secondary item that we were all sort of loving yesterday, which is this. So why don't you talk about this, Mischa?
Yeah, so when you're on the trail, having something to boil water in is very important. I'm sure you'll have other purification systems, but it's the last resort. If you need clean water, you can always boil it. It's always nice to have something warm at night as well. And those things, I mean, they boil water in, I think, 90 seconds or around there, so it's pretty awesome.
So this is the jet boil, and I have used other stoves, and this one is so quick, it's unbelievable, and you have a cup of hot tea at night in a jiffy.
Yeah,
so
it's a good thing to have to warm up by.
Yeah, and super easy. And when you do put this together and you start the fire, you don't actually need matches, which is good too. There's an igniter.
Wow.
Let's talk about some of the other stuff. My favorite cap, which doesn't really need too much to say about it, except it has an exceptional pattern on it.
Good to have sun protection, though.
Yeah, you do.
Flair on the trail.
You need flair on the trail and colors. And then coffee. Let's talk about coffee.
Very important. I was going to say, out of all the things I see here, this one caught my eye.
Yeah, so to me, I didn't want to actually go without coffee. That's one of the luxuries that I want to start my day off with, a cup of coffee. And I do that every day. And it would be nice not to carry it, but I was not willing to go through a coffee withdrawal.
That's something I told my campers and other people going backpacking. You know, there's the essentials, but it's nice to have a couple little things, creature comforts, that will make you feel like you're at home when you're out in the middle of nowhere. And if it's only, you know, I'm sure that's not too heavy. It's worth that one extra little bit.
Yeah. And Mischa, let's talk about the hiking poles. Why is it important to have hiking poles?
Yeah, so hiking
like
poles, like I mentioned before, when you're carrying a pack, and especially on a long hike like the one you're going on, I think your pack is going to be 40 pounds or more. So when you have that kind of weight, it's really going downhill for me, but it depends where all of that pressure is hitting your knees and impacting. So having something to relieve that pressure can really make you last a lot longer while you're hiking.
And when you're talking about carrying a pack that's anywhere from 35 to 55 pounds, that's additional weight on top of your body weight, you've been hiking for 4 or 5 hours, going on a downhill slope, I feel like these are an absolute lifesaver.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Like, I don't know how you would be able to do a hike like this without poles.
I'm taking notes.
Yes, Black Diamond, I really love these. So moving on, this is the other thing that I have to bring on the trail with me, and this is jungle juice. I was in Yosemite last year, and the mosquitoes were out of control. I've never experienced anything like that. They bit us everywhere, and when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere.
They're relentless.
So yeah, there's there's the you can take more environmentally friendly mosquito repellent, but I am going nuclear, so and okay with that. The other item that I'm bringing is this Cotopaxi puffer jacket.
Nice.
And the temperatures could be around 30 or 40 degrees at night.
Yeah.
And it's important to stay warm on the trail. And one of the most important things I found out about doing this is doing test hikes with your equipment beforehand. If you're going to go out on a hike like this, I think it's really important to know your equipment, like do your shoes fit you?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Shoes, your pack, and your warm gear are probably the three things you really want to make sure are gonna work for you.
And I took 2.5 hours trying on different backpacks when I got my pack, and I'll show that in a second. And I didn't realize with weight how differently they fit on the hips and the shoulders. So it was like buying a car.
Yeah, it's gotta fit your body. It's important.
Yeah, but back to this puffer, we were talking yesterday about this. I had actually bought a Patagonia puffer and went out, and it was a 50-degree evening and spent the night, and I was freezing. Wow. And it was actually, it was a little bit heavier than this coat. So why is this coat keeping me warmer than the Patagonia?
So a lot of the times the warmth that a jacket provides is about the amount of insulation it provides. So some of these coats are built with multiple air pockets, multiple layers, and the more of those layers of air they have between you and the cold, the warmer it's going to keep your own body heat. So it's not always about how heavy or thick the coat is, but how well it insulates you. And obviously when you're packing, if you can find a lightweight thing that keeps you warm, that's a big win.
Yeah, and it's cute.
Yeah,
and that's also important. The bears will be looking.
It matches the hat. We got to match the hat. Okay, so we have an audience question, which is how many days does it take to hike Mount Whitney? And what does it say here? Do it in some people. Oh, I see. So it's saying that some people do it in 1 and some people do it in 2 days. From what I understand, it will take us 1 day to hike Mount Whitney.
Yeah, I think if you're doing it with a day pack, I haven't done Whitney. I have friends that have. If you're doing it just with a day pack, I think a lot of ambitious hikers can do it in a day. I have not tried. It looks intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 or 2 days depending on how you're trying to do it is what I've heard.
And this is after your 21 day hike,
right.
so let's
Hell no, I'm not bringing that pack up there. I'm going to bring a candy bar, and that is it.
Good.
Okay, so another audience question. Are you taking hemp seeds? They are a complete food rich in protein and omega-3s. That's a great question. I personally am not taking hemp seeds. I just, I don't really like the flavor of hemp seeds. So I actually take omega-3 gel caps with me.
Nice.
And I was learning from our doctor that we actually get way too much omega-6 in our diet, and so we need to take omega-3s. It not only helps with inflammation and so many other things, it actually helps to combat the fact that we're getting too much omega-6 from the food that we have in our diets, which I think is interesting. All right, another audience question. How much will your pack weigh? What do you think it's going to weigh?
Yeah, so yours?
Yeah.
Yours, I mean, I think 45 is probably about right. It obviously
You don't know how much I pack.
Yeah, that's true.
I was going to say,
We'll look over there.
55?
It depends on how long you're going. It depends on what kind of food you want to bring. But, those pounds add up pretty quickly. So it's definitely something, if you're inexperienced, it's definitely worth weighing your pack, sitting on the scale and then putting it on and making sure, it's within reason.
So I had a dream when I started this out, and I wanted to rent some llamas, because not only are llamas cute, but you can they can wear fun stuff too.
Definitely.
And they can carry all of your
Llamas,
gear.
Sherpas,
Even you.
Yeah, even me. But I found out you actually can't rent one llama. You have to rent them in pairs.
Oh, that's unfair. They don't want to be lonely on the trail.
No, they don't want to be lonely, right? Do you think it's cheating if you bring a llama?
I've never llama hiked, I can say. I've never done that. I don't know if it's cheating, but...
I don't think it's cheating.
I would try it out.
I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up soon. So if you have any questions about the John Muir Trail, about cannabis and hiking or Atlas edibles, please use the live chat and ask away. In the meantime, as we're beginning to wrap up, I'm going to bring out my backpack. I want your commentary,
Let's do it.
and I want your advice on how to actually pack
Yeah, absolutely.
a pack appropriately. And then we're going to have our chair off. See, I'm like dragging, like, ugh. All right, okay,
Look at this.
pull it on up.
Boom.
Boom.
Oh, very lightweight.
Right? Right?
Yeah, so
These are heck-
these
Wow.
backpacks are amazing.
Impressive.
They have lots of different pockets where you can store things. One of the most common mistakes I see with packing backpacks is where the heavy items are put. Water is generally going to be the heaviest thing you're carrying at any given time. And you usually want your heavy items right in the small of your lower back, where your center of gravity is. If you put heavy stuff up by your shoulders or behind your head, it's going to make you a lot more top heavy and wobbly. And that's when, the one little rock is bad news. So it's all about putting the weight where
So
your
when
weight is.
so when I open my pack, and I think you intuitively know this, you put the bare canister in first, lowest, and then the center, and then you pack your stuff around
Exactly.
it. Yeah, and that thing has to be right in the dead center, because I've done that before where you're like, oh, I seem to be leaning to the
Yeah,
right.
balance is important. Balance and keeping that weight low. The top is where you can put, any lighter items, pillows, and whatever you
CBD.
bring in.
Access to your medicine, of
Yeah,
course.
I got a cool new fanny pack. I'm a big fan of the fanny
Nice.
pack. Everyone in the office knows it. I talk incessantly about it. It's so retro and cool, and I realize that there are a lot of pockets, but actually gaining access to them aren't. So I'm going to be fanny packing the entire John Muir Trail.
No, it's good. There's certain things you want to be able to have access to really quickly. So
Like
that's really smart.
chapstick.
There you go.
You're going to be the most stylish, I think,
On the
camper
trail.
out there. Yeah.
I don't know about that. All right, so, our chairs.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here to look
Okay.
and give my opinions.
Okay, so Mischa and I were talking yesterday about camping chairs and how it's super important when you get back to a campsite that you have something to sit in.
Yes.
And now I can't really bring a huge chair with me,
No.
but this puppy is super cool. Look at
Wow.
this.
Look how
Okay.
lightweight.
Look.
Okay, I'm evaluating
Yeah,
here.
and
Right.
light is key, but it's nice to have somewhere to rest your back.
Right, so
Super
you
nice.
are on the
Absolutely.
ground, but you put your sleeping pad in here and up there, and then it's cushy, and then you put your flip-flops on, and you're good to go. I mean,
Wow.
that's
And I was mentioning
right?
to you, anytime
very
you can
awesome.
take one thing that has multiple uses, you're saving weight. So
Right.
the fact that your
Wow.
sleeping pad also becomes your chair is a huge win.
Yeah, I love it.
That's huge.
And then you just like roll it up like that.
And look how lightweight.
And
This
look,
is-
look, you don't know it's a chair? Is
Press-
it a chair? What is it? I don't know.
Ward off the bears.
Okay.
This one's my favorite. I think you win
Put it-
the ease and weight. This is an
wow,
REI
look at
chair.
this.
It only weighs about 1.8 pounds, so it's still pretty lightweight. But it's almost like a mini hammock, so
Oh, look at
it's
it.
quite comfortable.
I'm
And
so chair jealous.
I like yours better though. You can put the sleeping bag in it. That's special.
Thank
for
you,
a
Ezra.
long trip, I agree. I think yours is the winner.
Okay,
This
well,
is the 2-day.
two different
the two-day
examples.
version.
I'll try them later.
I think I'm going to get one of those. So we're going to wrap up now, and I want to thank you guys, Ezra and Mischa, for joining us at Atlas Edibles. You can find Atlas by looking on their website, correct? They're available throughout California. So go to, is it atlasedibles.com?
That's it.
That's correct.
That's the
Okay,
one.
so you'll be able to find them there. And in terms of today, thank you so much for watching. We hope we answered all of your questions, and tune in next time for our shows that are on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. And I think our next one will be from our Ask a Doctor series. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.